This week, we're joined by David Koplovitz from ProXPN for our interview segment. In our technical discussion for this evening, considerations for using Intel's SGX. In our stories for the week, perhaps some of the ones that have worried me the most, maybe in the history of this podcast. Can the election be affected by attackers on the internet? Can IoT devices suffer any more security vulnerabilities? What else do we have in here? Google's security head says Pixel is as secure as the iPhone, which is always good for some nice banter. And perhaps our story of the week, amongst others, the one that stood out to me, was from Troy Hunt, Ubiquity All the Things, or how he finally fixed all of his dodgy Wi-Fi. All that and more, so stay tuned. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Security Weekly is brought to you by the SANS Institute, the most trusted source for computer security training, certification, and research. Visit SANS.org to explore the full curriculum and latest training offerings. Onapsis, the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsis.com. Pony Express. Check out their line of penetration testing devices, including the Pwn Pad, the Pwn Phone, and the Pwn Pro. For enterprises, there's Pwn Pulse, providing continuous visibility into wired, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth spectrums across all physical locations, including remote sites and branch offices. For all those hard-to-reach places, there's Pony Express. Visit them on the web at ponyexpress.com. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Security Weekly. It's episode 487 for November 3rd, 2016. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, the master of ceremonies, as it were, here on Paul's Security Weekly. To my left is none other than one of the co-founders of Security B-Sides, currently working for Tenable Network Security, Mr. Jack Daniel. Welcome, Jack.
Your left? Oh, your left.
Yes, my left is your right. You got it. And you get the Santa glasses on.
I got the Santa glasses on because I'm old.
It's all about Christmas time right now because
Dumbledore.
I go for once Dumbledore. It's Halloween, you start seeing Christmas commercials.
Right. That's
the way it works.
That's it. I was at a Lowe's in Georgia like a month ago, and they had Christmas trees up. It's like it's 93 degrees. What? Stop. I don't need children sitting on my lap yet.
We have with us the network wizard, and by wizard I mean he adorns his wizard hat and robe. He's worked for universities. He's currently a tester at Black Hills Information Security.
What does he wear under the robe?
You don't want to know.
Okay.
He's a SANS instructor and an INS faculty member, Mr. Joff Thayer. Joff, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Paul, for the introduction. I don't know that I'm a network wizard. I don't really do that stuff anymore, but I appreciate the intro. It's good to be here. And I will add, I don't know what I was going to add. Oh, the Christmas thing. Yeah. You know, it does happen. It's that time of year. So what are you going to do?
That's it. You got to embrace it at this point.
I'd rather think about Christmas than next Tuesday.
I have some predictions. I don't know. And and our listeners know I hate making predictions, but I do have some predictions.
You also avoid political things.
I do.
We go out of our way to avoid
We go out of our way to avoid political things because our ability to offend people without talking about politics is just extraordinary.
Cheers to that,
Cheers
right?
to that.
Cheers to
we
that.
don't even need to bring politics in the mix. So, I have a really big announcement. I want to make sure everyone pays very close attention to what I'm about to say. We did a survey. It is the first time ever in Security Weekly history that we have ever asked our listeners to really do much of anything other than try and enjoy the ridiculousness that is this show.
And drink.
And drink with us.
Yeah,
but we did put together a survey. This survey, it helps you, the listener, because we will listen to you and we will make adjustments according to our feedback that we get from our listeners. And I've collected feedback from a lot of you over the years, usually over drinks at a conference, which likely means I don't remember exactly what you said. So we put together this, Survey Monkey kind of thing. And you can go there, give us feedback on the show, tell us a little about yourself, collected completely anonymously. I don't want to know who you are, per se, as it relates to you. I want to know just a little about how you listen to the show, what you think about the show, stuff about where you work in an anonymous sense. I don't want your email address. I don't ask for an email address. So go fill out the survey because it helps you, the listener, and it helps us continue to thrive and grow, produce content that's relevant to you, and grow as an organization. So you can go to securityweekly.com/survey. Please, 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 I beg you, go there, fill out that survey, give me your honest feedback. There is an open-ended question at the end, which basically just asks for your feedback. We want to hear from you. I want to know what your feedback is. I want to know what you think of the show. I want to know what you think about where we're going, make recommendations. Tell us what's working for you, what's not. Please go fill out that survey, securityweekly.com/survey. Please do that. That would be... I'm greatly appreciative to everyone who has filled out the survey so far. I sent out to our mailing list before the show. About 90 people had responded, which is interesting. I'm curious to see as it spreads out, what the feedback is, and we're going to use that to basically go into 2017 and continue to develop shows that will benefit you. So please, securityweekly.com/survey. Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Paul, I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the show, I think you announced that we're show number 487, but it looks to me like
we're 488.
So I just wanted to make sure that got out there.
Yep, 488 episodes, and I'm still unable to keep track of what episode number it is. I'm consistent, if nothing else, Jeff.
Consistent's good.
Consistency is good. Dave Koplovitz is here with us from ProXPN. He has over 20 years of experience in corporate leadership and management. And Dave, you are currently the CTO of ProXPN, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Dave, welcome to the show.
About 3 years. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Excellent. So Dave, why don't you start by just telling us, how you got involved with information security? How did you get your career started?
Oh, I actually have a non-traditional IT background. I used to be a wrestler, believe it or not, an amateur wrestler. And
wait, is that like Nacho Libre kind of?
No, like the kind in the Olympics.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And was fortunate enough to get an internship with EDS back in 1996, and they put me through their technical program. So they actually really did things correctly there and taught me how to do technology the right way. Then I started doing a bunch of startups and ended up at ProXPN a few years back. So along the way, I worked in billing, and a key component of any kind of billing is security. So it fitted nicely.
What was some of your experiences like at various startups over time? We do a whole show on startup. It's called Startup Security Weekly. So we're very much in tune with that kind of mindset in that whole industry. Well,
in the startup world, lack of sleep more than anything, and just changing directions. So it's nice to be in a more concrete, stable world. Now I'm a bit older, so I can't keep up with the youngsters.
So you said you've been with ProXPN for 2 years, is that correct?
I think about 3 years now.
3 years? So what are some of the use cases for ProXPN? Like, what attracted you to come work for the organization, and what can people kind of expect from using ProXPN products?
So actually, I knew the owners and had an opportunity to come and work with them. I think everyone needs to be safe and secure while online. While you're traveling, even at home, people don't think about the information that's flying out the back of their computer. And you're basically exposing that to anyone that is on that network as an administrator or even people that may be able to be in your own network. So the nice thing about having a VPN is you're basically creating a tunnel between the back of your computer and our endpoint. And no one can see the traffic coming across your internet connection.
Dave, it seems to me in speaking with you before the show that not only is there a security component to this, but very much so a privacy component to this whole equation. For some of our listeners out there who may not be using this type of VPN service, what are some of the gains in privacy that you get when you're using a service such as ProXPN?
Well, aside from the encryption that's from your computer to our endpoint, your IP is basically obfuscated, and we NAT your connection. That means that to the world, you're looking like you're coming out of our endpoint, whether it's in New York or London or wherever you want to come out. We have endpoints all over the world, and what that means is that no one can see where you're coming from. And no one can see the traffic, again, across your local network and across the internet to our endpoint. So your communication is protected. Another thing that what we talked about earlier was DNS. And we actually serve the DNS. And people don't understand that. When you request a website, you basically reach out to a DNS provider, whether it's Google or your local ISP. And they know where you're going, right? They actually, if you go to CNN, they know to go to CNN. If you're on our VPN, we serve the DNS, and even your provider won't necessarily know, or they won't know where you're going. Your information is secured both in transit and in DNS.
Some of the questions that come up when we talk about VPN services such as this, Dave, is while legitimate users such as ourselves and our listeners may use this to improve the privacy, attackers can also use this too. And it's kind of interesting. I'll talk about a technology in our technical segment on the show that very much is a double-edged sword. Are there things that you do to make sure that no one is abusing the service, or and also kind of a follow-on question, like how do you deal with law enforcement?
Well, obviously, if law enforcement makes a request, we have to answer it. That goes without saying. And as far as abuse is concerned, we don't really have any logging per se. We do know, who's connecting and when. But you're 100% correct. I mean, that people could abuse our service. Now, it's against our EPs, and if we identify it, we will turn that off.
So with there are a lot of services in your particular field, Dave, and it's kind of interesting. I've heard people talk about different services. We actually get contacted by a lot of different services that want to gain subscribers. And so, like, how do you differentiate yourself in the market that seems to be like it's a pretty competitive market in terms of the type of VPN service that you're providing?
It's actually very competitive. We have a lot of different protocols that we support, and you have a choice of PPTP or Open or IPsec. We support all the platforms, Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, Linux. And also, you can configure your own devices to use our service. We have endpoints all over the world and redundancy, and it's a self-healing network. So if we lose a location, we can easily and quickly either turn it off and spin up a new one, or it will be taken out of service if there's an outage locally. And we have that redundancy that makes that really not an issue. So we have been around, I think, for 8 years, and as a company, and what makes us one of the oldest VPN companies in the field. So we like to think we're doing things the right way, and we're keep on growing and expanding not only our offerings but our product line. We're actually going to launch pretty soon a ad blocking service that's built into the VPN itself.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. And I know you said before the interview, Dave, you wanted to talk generally about security, and I think our audience is really in tune with ad blocking. And it's interesting in some of our own segments that we've run on the show. I've done some research, and there's a lot of overlap between services that will serve ads, and then the same domains will be on the same list of domains that serve malware as well. So especially, I think security professionals are really in tune with being able to block ads. Can you give us a little insight as to how you're blocking those ads?
Well, we're going to be building it into our DNS product, actually. So we'll be able to proactively do it without actually having to install software on the device.
Yeah, and that's the very same way we've recommended that people implement ad blocking is basically by DNS name. So that's really great.
And so that would be seamless into the product. We're in beta right now with that.
Awesome. So in terms of evaluating VPN products, and Dave, you have an extensive background in product management and in product strategy. So when users go to evaluate a VPN offering such as yourselves, what are some of the things they should take into consideration when choosing which service to use?
Well, we offer a no-risk trial. That's one thing to think about. And actually, with our Android and iOS products, you can get, I think it's 250 megabytes of free transfer per month, and just try it out. And that's one thing to think about. You need to look at what protocols are supported. You need to look at what platforms are supported, and also if they allow more than one device at a time to be connected. We don't restrict that. So those are all things that when you're comparing providers, you need to consider.
Yeah, and most of us, especially our listeners, have more than one device, certainly,
right,
at any given time, for sure. Now, I'm also told that you have an enterprise offering. Do you care to elaborate on some of your enterprise offerings?
Well, we have done in the past enterprise offerings. If some company has the need for an enterprise solution, we have stood them up before and given them their own endpoint and user access. So that's something that someone could reach out to us at sales@proxpn.com and talk to one of our support people and get in touch with the sales team if they were interested in that. And it's important when you're traveling. People don't think about that. And I was recently flying through an airport and somebody had their local phone set up as it was an FBI.com alias and on their SSID. And you don't think about it, but you could connect to anything and name it anything. And if the person's a bad actor, they're going to see your traffic. They can set up a proxy and attack your traffic. If you're on the VPN, that's not possible. It's going to be connected end to end. So you can basically travel and be in a hotel, be on an unsecured network at your friend's house. All that stuff you can protect using a VPN.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice offering because as many of us know that are on the show today, and many of us listening that have been the person, like raise your hand if you've been the person. Like if you're driving, keep both hands on the wheel. But like raise your hand if you're the person that's actually set up the VPN service for your organization. There's a lot. I mean, Jack, there's a lot of heavy lifting involved in that process. There's a lot of configuration.
And not only easy that, until you try to get normal people to use it.
And I was just going to say that. Like, once you get to the point where you're like, yes, this rocks. Like, I'm ready to let users start trying it. And you're like, no, don't. Oh, God. So does ProXPN address some of those issues, I'm sure, David? Because, ProXPN provides those services to the general public.
Yep.
And when you adopt those as an enterprise, a lot of those usability issues are really kind of already been worked out, right?
Yeah, install our client, put in your username and password, connect, and you're online. Plus, we have the support line, so you don't have to call whatever corporate security. A lot of companies actually that we've talked to in the past don't want their people traveling and using the corporate VPN for personal use.
Interesting.
So that's another thing. That, if you're in London and you don't want to connect over the internet to the home office and then have to surf out. So having a product like ours, whether it's a personal subscription or corporate subscription, really solves a lot of that problem.
David, and I think a lot of times when our listeners listen to interviews such as this, they're asking the question like, why should we trust you? Why should we trust ProXPN? So, can you give us a little bit of an insight in some of the technologies maybe that you're using on the back end, a little about your processes for making sure that VPN connection has integrity?
Sure. Well, as far as trust is concerned, we've been around a long time. And we were, like I said, one of the first providers in the space. We, follow best practices. We patch our software. We do everything that every security company or professional needs to do as far as keeping software current, as far as keeping the clients current. And I guess in addition to that, we do build our own software, and we do allow you to use your own as well. If you want to use an OpenVPN client, you can do that. So you have both options available to you. We use state-of-the-art IPsec and OpenVPN connectivity. I think there's not much more you can say on that.
Yeah, I think someone was telling me that on the iPhone platform, there was is it L2TP that's going away and being
no, they just shut down PPTP.
PPTP, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, and we actually just upgraded our iOS client to support IPsec. So it's on demand now for paid subscriptions. You can go on and select any number of endpoints. It's very fast.
Jack, you had some questions earlier about?
I was just he sort of touched on them, but so you support multiple protocols, SSL as well as IPsec, and one of the questions whenever I want to get cryptographers or cryptanalysts going is I always ask, do you trust IPsec because of its complexity? And that's sort of baiting people because it is challenging. But I think the important thing that you covered is that depending on where you are, your hotel may not let you out, and if you don't have multiple options, you are shut out. I mean, how much coverage do you guys provide as far as different ports and protocols, things that are going to get past the the people of the world that block?
I'm sorry. Yeah, different ports and protocols and different endpoints.
Right.
We've also seen that, some countries start compressing and throttle.
Oh, yes.
So, it's a constant cat and mouse game in some of these places to stay ahead of that ball.
David, where do you see the VPN market going in 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. There's been a proliferation of providers for sure, but it's not going away. And in fact, I think more and more people are becoming aware of the need for security and the need for privacy. There are blanket surveillance going on by businesses and by foreign governments. And I think that people are going to want to keep their communication streams private. And it's not so much that anyone is doing anything wrong. Sometimes it's the appearance of impropriety that can get you into trouble. Whether it's at work or at home with your wife, it doesn't matter. And I think people are going to want to stay safer and are becoming less trustful. So VPNs are going to be core to staying safe for the foreseeable future. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think that's a pretty sound statement.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that Microsoft usually rushes into things years late and then gets it right. But what is it? Direct access. I don't see it myself. Things like IPsec, as complicated and convoluted as it is under the covers and often to configure depending on what you're using, and OpenVPN, particularly with its ease of use, it works on anything.
Right.
And that's without using tools like yours that make it easier to do. With some patience, if you're not afraid of command lines, OpenVPN, man, it's stunning what you can connect, right? And same with IPsec. And, I think Microsoft is betting on something that really limits your options, like, with tools like yours or some of your competitors. You download a package and, look, I'm connected to anything that speaks OpenVPN, or I'm connected to anything that speaks whether it's an Android, whether it's Microsoft Phone, OS, iOS, whatever. So I think the versatility is critical too, because it's the ability to get across multiple platforms without having to have a different set of rules, right? It's I think is important, and I don't know if it's going to collapse or if it's going to stay fragmented. But Microsoft is betting on something that I am not a fan of.
Well, I always fear all of the big players in the space myself. I mean, Google, Apple, you can seem to trust more than the rest, but they all have angles, and they all want your information, and they all want to control what you can and can't do on their platforms. So you have to pick the platform and control the information that you can share.
Right, and they all want your. That's a good point. It leads to the point of they all want your information, right? Google wants to know about you. Apple wants to know about you. Microsoft wants to know about you, and they may be very protective. John Callis recently left Silent Circle to rejoin Apple, and Wendell Snyder's been there for years. And they're people that I trust that know what they're doing. But Apple would like to know what you're doing. Google, they kind of want to know what you're doing. So the idea of a third party that you can trust is important.
Along those lines, Dave. I mean, just to bring back just to really geek stuff, right? We talk about these big players like Amazon. I'm really getting ready to make a big investment in Echo, just because really of usability, and I'm really concerned about the security of that. Where do you see some of these more usable big companies making products available? How does that play into security? You seem like a really big technology guy. You're talking about the browser plugins in your browser. What do you think about Echo and that kind of thing?
At some point you have to figure out what you want to get out of the internet and third-party providers like Amazon or whoever it is, and what information you can share when you log in and purchase something, and they're throwing up not only on their site, but on other sites, things that you had looked at, and they're retargeting you.
Yeah, Amazon and Facebook have that weird, incestuous, awful, slimy feeling relationship, right?
Yeah, and I'm not really familiar with Echo so much, but I can only tell you what I do. I'm aware of the information I try and that I share and give away. So it's really important to educate yourself on how these systems work. And I use a lot of browser plugins on top of my VPN connection. We were talking earlier. I mean, Facebook blockers and Google blockers and ticker removers and Flash Block and Lightbeam. If you look at Lightbeam, that's a great product. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No, what does Lightbeam do?
Lightbeam just shows you it used to be called Collusion. It's a plugin for Firefox, and it shows all of the incestuous connections between a lot of the online providers. So all roads lead to Google, more or less. But if you install Lightbeam, you can actually see the information that's flowing between, not the actual information, but the connections between different providers. So it's really, from my perspective, about understanding and being educated about your privacy. No one reads the privacy statements that you immediately click OK, install. I do. Most of the time. And you can't survive in the world now without accepting some of these terms and conditions. But you can limit the information that you're sharing. You can protect your IP. You can protect the communication flow. And when you're using browsers, use plugins like Ghostry and Flash Block that can protect you.
Yeah, it just the whole privacy thing it's out of control. I mean, we've talked about it with a lot of different. Go ahead, Joff.
Well, I was going to make a comment, back to you are asking what's going to drive, really what's going to drive the market. Where do we see VPN 5 years from now? And I think this entire conversation at the tail end here is exactly what's going to drive the VPN market down the road. It's going to be end consumer awareness of increasing privacy violation and the need to take action on that. And I think companies like ProXPN and others. If they take advantage of that and market towards privacy, I think you're going to have a lot of great success in the future.
Yeah, to your point, I'm actually in the process of writing an ebook on just that for our subscribers. Talking about educating yourself and what you have to understand, what a beacon is, what what cookies are, and now there's super cookies, right? So you can be tracked pretty easily. And the odd thing is what you don't show is just as important as what you show when they fingerprint your computer. It's kind of frightening.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect of that we will see increase, and where we as a community are going to have to get involved in managing this somewhat is it is more than likely that legislators will get involved down the road, and that may have a dramatic impact, not necessarily in a positive direction. So we're going to have to really be aware of that. Use groups to our advantage, such as EFF and others, to try to guide that process appropriately.
The EFF is a great organization from my perspective, if only to be a consenting voice. They have some great tools out there as well that you can look at, like Panoptic. I think they support. That shows the fingerprint of your computer, so you can see what information you're giving away.
Absolutely. All right, I guess back to you, Paul.
Yeah, Dave, you seem like a really paranoid person. I really want to read some of your materials, guy. I feel like I need to be more paranoid about the internet now. Listening to you.
If you can't be paranoid, because then you'd never leave your house, right?
That's true. You would never connect to the internet. To take it to the extreme, right?
Yeah, but I kind of relate it to like going to a restaurant and leaving your garage door opener in your car with your home address programmed into your onboard computer and giving the keys to someone you don't know. That's not smart. And I like. On my onboard GPS, it's not my address; it's down the street, and I do use I don't have a remote for my garage door, but I do have my home address programmed in down the street, as I mentioned. So, if I am using the valet service, they can't find my house, and they can't push the button and open the door.
So if you told your neighbor down the street, like, hey, if someone's in my car, like standing outside your garage door pushing the button, like, can you give me a call?
Exactly. Oddly enough, my garage door opener a few years back opened my neighbor's garage door, and that's like near impossible. But every day I would leave work, I'd hit the button, and his garage door open, I would go, and I didn't know it was opening his garage door. So, yeah.
Wow. So would yours would close and his would open?
Exactly.
Wow.
Crazy. But not having a VPN and not understanding the information you're sharing is a paramount to the same thing I just mentioned, which is you're giving your keys and your address and your door opener to someone you don't know. So get educated and get on a VPN and be safe. Be smart.
Dave, I have 5 more questions for you that are... Well, they're somewhat ridiculous, to be honest with you. But
okay.
Our listeners love them, and it's a standard thing that we've done for several years now when new guests come on the show. So you're ready to play 5 questions with Security Weekly.
Okay. I'm a little paranoid now.
Yeah. You're a lot paranoid. You shouldn't be too paranoid about this. They're pretty fun. All right. Okay. 3 words to describe yourself.
Large, scary, and bald.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
My hands.
If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think that's a great title.
That's a great question. I like that. That's a great question. A book would be How Did They Get Here?
In the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
Oh boy, Ask Grabby Grabby.
Now, I would imagine, Dave, given your stature, how tall are you?
I'm 6'5".
6'5", and you were a wrestler. My guess would be you get to pick in a game of Ask Grabby Grabby.
Yeah, anywhere I want to, right?
Yes. That's a good answer. Dave, choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
My parents, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Good one.
And Bridget Nielsen.
Nice. You're like an 80s movie fan then. Does that make you an 80s movie fan?
I'm old, man.
No, because I totally identify with the actor and the actress in like the 80s, like early 90s. That's cool.
Arnold is the best.
I agree. I concur. And he's a big cigar smoker too, as am I. So awesome. Well, Dave, thank you very much for appearing on Security Weekly. Keep up the great work at ProXPN. Thanks for appearing on the show.
You. Hey, do mention the.
Oh yeah, hold on. Hey, Riley, hold on. Mute the music for a second. Sorry. You have like an updated discount code to share with our listeners. Yeah.
I think it was KOP20.
Okay.
So if you go to our site, you can get a 20% discount. Just enter the coupon code KOP20.
KOP20 for 20% discount off of ProXPN. Excellent. Dave, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, now you can like roll the music and stuff. Sorry.